a lot of public sentiment is not in favor of conducting an election at this time. People are saying that, our needs have not been addressed. The conflict is still going on. The government has not been able to address this fundamental issue. So, we don't think that it's the right time to have an election. It's going to be almost a year of this conflict, and people are still reeling in the aftermath. Not just the aftermath. I mean, it's an everyday reality, right? I mean, the violence flares up from time to time, ever so frequently. So there's not a lot of public opinion in favor of openly campaigning. So we also have like two different pictures of, how the election is playing out. So you have the Meitei majority valley, which forms the most of the inner Manipur constituency. And we have two constituencies in Manipur, and the other one is outer Manipur, which makes up most of the tribal dominated hills of Manipur, which includes both Kuki majority territory and Naga majority territory. So in inner Manipur, we have 6 candidates contesting, but it's, despite the fact that there are so many candidates, and it's actually pretty hotly contested, but the campaign itself is quite muted. On the other hand, if we look at the Kuki majority areas, the election is playing out very differently. This time there are no Kuki-Zomi candidates. So there, the election atmosphere is almost absent. There are people who are talking about it at some level, but there's no campaigning happening there really. All 4 candidates who are contesting from outer Manipur are Naga candidates, and the conversations are largely happening between the candidates and the community leaders there. So there's no kind of interface between the candidates and the voting public in the Kuki majority areas. So because of these factors, it's really silent, though it is expected that Home Minister Amit Shah is going to address a rally in the valley sometime in the coming week. So the key initiative that has been taken by the Election Commission of India to address this is that they've come up with a scheme to enable people to vote from the relief camps. So a lot of these displaced people are in relief camps on either side. There are relief camps across, I think, around 10 districts in the state. So to enable people to vote closer to their relief camps, so they're allowed to register outside of, their constituency, to vote outside the territorial limits. So for example, if I am a Kuki person who used to vote in Imphal, but now I'm displaced and I'm living in Churachandpur, then I can register so that I can vote for the Imphal constituency, but from Churachandpur. So that's a provision that has been made. A lot of people, especially the Kuki-Zomis, kind of have objected to the fact that a lot of people from the community have left the state. So there's no provision for those people. For example, there are thousands of people from the community who settled or who are taking shelter in Mizoram. So they will not be able to participate in the elections in this manner. Like I told you, there are factors affecting this on both sides of the divide. If we talk about inner Manipur, like I said, there is a lot of public sentiment is not in favor of conducting an election at this time. People are saying that, our needs have not been addressed. The conflict is still going on. The government has not been able to address this fundamental issue. So, we don't think that it's the right time to have an election. At the same time, there's also the radical Meitei armed group, Arambai Bengal, has more or less issued a diktat forbidding any kind of open campaigning, any rallies or public speeches and so on. So candidates have tried to find their way around that. They're conducting smaller meetings with people in different areas. So they're meeting around 20, 50 people in local areas, local area leaders' residences. And it's a more like personalized micro kind of a campaign that's happening. Another reason is that, all these displaced people who are, for example, people who are displaced from Kuki-Zomi majority areas to the valley now, they're also kind of questioning what they have to gain from participating in this election. So because of that, a lot of the people in the relief camps especially have kind of said that they're not interested in participating in this election at all. There are the influential women's markets in Imphal. So as of now, they have declared that they are not participating in the election because they don't think it's appropriate. So there are a number of different factors working here. And like I said, in the Kuki-Zomi areas, there are no candidates representing the community who are directly campaigning to them, right? So there are the Naga candidates, but their communication is mostly happening with community leaders as opposed to the general public. So there's a diversity of opinion within people about how the election should be approached given the circumstances. In the case of the Kuki-Zomi community, when I spoke to people, people personally have a divergence of opinions, like I said. But ultimately, what seems to be the case is that people are saying is that ultimately our community leaders will take a decision and we will abide by that. So whether that decision is NOTA, whether that decision is a particular candidate who could best serve the interest of the community, that is a decision which a lot of people are waiting for their community leaders to make. That we're talking about is the outer Manipur constituency. Like I said, that includes the Naga majority districts and the Kuki majority districts like Kangpokpi and Churchandpur. So normally this constituency, from time to time, it elects a Naga MP, sometimes it elects a Kuki MP. Currently, the sitting MP is a Naga MP from the Naga People's Front. Ahead of this election, there was conversation about who would contest from this constituency. But for a very long time, we didn't see any candidates coming forward. And ultimately, we saw groups like the Kuki MP Manipur and the Indigenous Tribal Leaders Forum, which are influential community organizations. They kind of decided that no one from the community should come forward to contest in the elections. And it seems more or less that that was abided with. One major thing that we need to keep in mind is that both the BJP and the Congress have backed Naga candidates in the election. So the major national parties both backed Naga candidates for the Outer Manipur constituency. And there is a party which is supposed to represent Kuki interests. It's called the Kuki People's Alliance. It was formed just before the Manipur Assembly elections. They also decided not to field a candidate because of the the directions given by the community leaders. Some of the reasons that the community leaders gave is that, they don't have the winning numbers. They don't have a fighting chance, given that the Kukis make up around 35% of the voters. A big chunk are the Naga voters, and then there are the Meitei voters. So the Meitei voters kind of also, swing the election in this particular constituency. So they were saying that we won't have the winning numbers in this case anyway. The other reason that they were saying is that our candidate won't have free movement. They were saying that, they're mostly confined to the Kuki majority area, so they can't really campaign in the other parts. They don't have free movement to do so. Some people also say, oh, look at the situation. It's not opportune. It's not the right, it's not appropriate for someone to stand for election. So there's a bunch of different reasons that are publicly being given by these organizations to justify this decision. But that is the call that was taken by the community organizations, and that was abided by. So when I spoke to a lot of people, right, when I was there, and what I got the sense was that there's a widespread discontent against the inability of the central and state governments to kind of stem this issue, to address what they think are the core issues causing this current conflict. So, I mean, the BJP candidate is obviously not going to criticize the government's inaction, so to say, but they are kind of harping on steps that the BJP government have taken, which they're saying addresses some of these key issues in the long term. So among the things that they're really harping on is that they strap the free movement regime with Myanmar, that they are, they say, taking steps towards the introduction of a NRC in the state, that they have fenced the Indo-Myanmar, that they've taken the decision to fence the entirety of the porous Indo-Myanmar border. So a lot of these, things that they're emphasizing on, they say is kind of addressing the concerns that the Meitei population have about illegal immigration from across the Myanmar border into Manipur, which, a lot of Meitei leaders and Meitei civil society believe is the core cause for this conflict, demographic imbalance. Then, of course, we have the Congress candidate, Bimola Koijam, who has been critical of the government's handling of the conflict since the start of the conflict. And in fact, he's an academic and he's just joined politics now. So what he is emphasizing, he's also a supporter of the NRC. He believes that the question of illegal immigration needs to be addressed. But what he is focusing more on is reconciliation. At least that's what his conversation with me was about, reconciliation between both the communities, because at the end of the day, they need to continue living together and they need to go back to living together. Then there are, there's a more hardline candidate who's there from the Republican Party of India, Athawale, Maheshwar Thaunajam. He's been quite, strident since the start of the conflict. And, one of the things that he's also been advocating for is the removal of cookies from the scheduled tribes list. So, there are different shades, but all of them are kind of trying to address in their own ways what they think are the key concerns arising from this conflict.